So good morning. Sunshine State, I guess, is not doing too good. Maybe it's because the guy from Boston, it's warmer there and it's sunny there than here. Anyway, enough about travel and so forth. I think there's a lot to cover in this hour, and I've never given one of these talks before, so this should be interesting. So I thought what I'd do is tell you a little bit about, I say, what's the vision, right? So my vision is to first listen, learn, and measure, and see what's going on in the School of Engineering or College of Engineering. I'm a School of Engineering guy, so every time I say school, you guys will think college. Then I thought I'd tell you what I think the dean's job is, and then I want to talk about education and then research. And I have this intriguing thing called the sandbox, which is, when we get to the sandbox, you know my talk is almost over. So I looked you guys up, and in round numbers is 300 faculty, 11 departments, 5,000 undergrads, and 3,000 grads, and that much money. And according to this wonderful thing called the U.S. News and World Report, you're 25th as a public, or 25th overall and 16th public, which is pretty damn good. And 3 departments made it into the top 10: materials, nuclear and radiological, and agricultural and biological. So, the competition is, I think Americans especially, if we don't have competition, we kind of sit still. When we do have competition, we always try to beat the other guys, and that's how you get better. And I know a little bit about gators, not too much, but I was here for about a month and a half back in 2003. I was a Butler lecturer over in the chemistry department. They have a polymer effort there, and my personal research is polymer-centric. And of course, the materials department here is very well respected and known, so I know the materials folks. And I got to know a little bit about gators. I wore a t-shirt with an alligator on it up to St. Augustine on a weekend in which Florida beat somebody, and they beat them in Jacksonville. And there was all sorts of people coming by shaking my hand and saying, "Congratulations." And my wife's like, "What's going on?"
That's Gator Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah, it had to be the Georgia Bulldogs or the Gators in Jacksonville.
Who did we play in Jacksonville?
Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia
So
Bulldogs.
they must have beaten Georgia. It's 2003. What was the score? It's like Red Sox fans, right? Okay, quiz. You guys are, how many people are professors? All right, quiz, folks. U.S. News and World Report says you guys are 25th and 16th. What's your world ranking? Of course, who's doing the ranking is the question. And let's pick somebody who's neutral, doesn't have a dog in the fight. Shanghai Jiao Tong University. They did a study, and probably some of you know about it. And now my ego is pleased to see that in the world ranking of engineering schools, MIT is number 1. And you look down the first 25, and Florida's not there. But maybe you weren't surprised. This is a world competition, and you were 25th in the United States, so it'd be hard to stay 25th in the world. But holy smokes, they are 30th in the world. So who's your competition? Just above you, Tokyo Institute of Technology, and the Swiss at Lausanne, and Imperial College London. And just behind, Singapore, UCLA, Minnesota, Harvard, which doesn't really much have an engineering program, and they were trying to get bigger, and they're not because their endowment disappeared, and that whole project is on hold. So if you look through this list and you scan where are the countries, you see the U.S. dominates. India and China, hardly on here. We're talking about all that great stuff happening in India and China, but their universities, and research especially, are just not there. Indian Institute of Technologies are excellent undergraduate schools, but they're not yet excellent graduate schools. Europe is kind of weak. You guys are in the global competition. I bet you don't, I certainly don't look at this kind of a world ranking very often, but when I did, I was pleased and surprised. And it's kind of interesting to think about. It is a world, going forward, it's a world competition. You're not going to just think about the folks that are in your neighborhood. You got to worry about the world. So what's a dean going to do? So I don't know what deans do because I've never been a dean, but I've watched several, and I think I can do the job. I think that the dean's first job is to see the big picture and understand it, and then to catalyze connections between pieces of that picture that is in the school or the College of Engineering and outside the College of Engineering. Being a faculty member my whole life and now department head, worst thing to do is to wait for somebody to tell you no. You don't like to be told no, but if it takes a long time to be told no, that's even worse. So make your decisions quickly and get those resources deployed. Space is probably more important than money. I'm beginning to tweeze back the fact that you guys have space, which is good. And first of all, your campus is enormous, and that's great. In this time of financial straits, getting people to share is important. I think deans are capable of doing that by putting some money where you can't get it unless you share it. Go outside the college, work with the state. I've been at University of Minnesota. That was my first job in the Chem department there, and University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Those are both the university of the flagship campus. I know the politics with the state, and state budgets are great when times are good and they're lousy when times are bad. To the extent that you're a research campus, you can isolate yourself somewhat from the cyclic business model of the state. International relationships, both people and money, are certainly now going forward are going to be more and more important. And you can't do education or research, you've got to do both. So that's my picture of the world. So what are we trying to do in engineering? So now if I was talking to a bunch of parents and you were going to send your kids to become engineers, what is it that we want them to learn? What are the educational goals? Certainly, ability to think analytically, but I put in italics there, hands-on skills. I think we're losing that in our engineers, because if you can't build stuff and make stuff, you're really not an engineer. Of course, you have to be deep. You have to be able to integrate. Certainly want to be original and creative. You have to be able to do this on your own. If somebody's, I think when I was young, I used to think that if I had to understand the stuff in chapter 8, I had to read chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to get to 8. There's no time for that. You go and jump into chapter 8 and you can't understand something, you go back to chapter 2, or you go on a wiki and you read about it, and then you go back and you keep struggling through chapter 8. There's no time to train yourself from t equals 0 up to chapter 8, so you have to be able to teach yourself on your own how to go fast. Communications, really important, especially writing skills for engineers. And we have a communications intensive program at MIT, and we don't let the folks over in the social sciences teach it. The engineering school teaches it. So lab reports and oral presentations are part of communications. Team, I'm big on teams. I think we've kind of lost our way on teams. It's all, especially MIT, it's all about getting that A+ and being the best and so forth. And that's all about individuals. And the world isn't just about individuals. Golf, Tiger Woods is an individual, but your teams, you bring a product to market, it's not one person, it's a team of people. And being part of a team, you have to be able to follow and you have to be able to lead. And the teams are not a bunch of kids that are all 21 years old and taking exactly the same set of courses. But that's usually what universities are. In the real world, you got young folks, old folks, economics people, lawyers, you got all kinds of people on a team. And engineers have to be able to get along and communicate with that diverse set. So when you graduate, this is actually out of the National Academy of Engineering. So what do they want engineers to be? Technically proficient, broadly educated, global citizens, leaders in business and public service, and ethically grounded, right? This is an important thing that I probably should put that in italics. Again, something, you don't want to send your engineers over to the Department of Philosophy so they take a course in ethics. That's not how you get ethics into their heads, but you put it in, you integrate it into the curriculum. Curriculum's packed, you can't add extra courses anyway. So you have to figure out how to integrate this into the curriculum as part of it. And ABET wants us to do those sorts of things.